It is the life of Muhammad. It is the earliest biography of Muhammad, recognized in that sense as the most authoritative, as the earliest. It's a translation here, Life of Muhammad, of Ibn Ishaq's Sirat Rasulullah. All right, and it is translated by a famous Arabic scholar, Alfred Guillaume. I was asked if I've read this cover to cover, and the answer no, so I'm going to...
The apostle gave orders to Az-Zubair ibn al-Awwam, torture him until you extract what he has. So he kindled a fire with flint and steel on his chest until he was nearly dead. Then the apostle delivered him to Muhammad ibn Maslama, and he struck off his head in revenge for his brother Mahmud.
Extensively from Muhammad's earliest biographer, Ibn Ishaq. Have his book right here too. He explains the contexts of various verses of the Quran
in the history of Al-Tabari.
Assalamu alaikum and hello to my non-Muslim viewers. Today we're going to be talking about refuting two sources that critics of Islam use, and those sources are this book, Ibn Ishaq, The Life of Muhammad, a translation of Ibn Ishaq Sirat Rasulullah, translated by Alfred Guillaume. And the second source I'm going to be refuting is this book, The History of Al-Tabari. I have volume 1 with me right here, and this is and I'm going to be refuting the reliability of Al-Tabari using volume 1, because that's all you need to refute it, or that's all you need to refute the reliability of Al-Tabari volume 1. So let's begin. The first source I'm going to be refuting is The Life of Muhammad, a translation of Ibn Ishaq Sirat Rasulullah, translated by Alfred Guillaume. Now, in order to refute this book, or in order to show that this book isn't reliable and stuff like that, you don't even need to go to outside sources. I mean, in the introduction of this book, there are several Islamic scholars, early Islamic scholars, who have condemned Ibn Ishaq for being careless in compiling his information. In other words, these Islamic scholars have said that Ibn Ishaq is not reliable. If we turn to page 35, page 35 and page page 36 and page 37. There are many Muslim scholars, early Muslim scholars, and again, I'm reading from Ibn Ishaq, pages 36 to 37. There are several Muslim scholars who have said that Ibn Ishaq is not reliable. Some of those scholars, being early Muslim scholars, being Yahya bin al-Qattan, Abdullah bin Numair. Some of those scholars, being early Muslim scholars, being Yahya bin al-Qattan, Abdullah bin Numair, Al-Maimuni, Al-Nisa, Al-Durkani, Yahya bin Sa'id, Abu Dawud Dalisi, and Malik bin Na, and Ibn Idris, Al-Muqtada al-Qassam. So there's several Muslim scholars, early Muslim scholars, from this book that say he's not reliable. For example, Al-Nisa, and I'm reading from Ibn Ishaq, Al-Nisa said that he was not strong, and Yahya bin Qattan would never quote from him. And Abdullah Numair said that when Ibn Ishaq reported what he had heard from well-known persons, his traditions were good and true, but sometimes he reported worthless things from unknown people. So there are several Muslim scholars that have discounted the reliability of Ibn Ishaq, and that's not all. Now, some critics might say that Ibn Ishaq is early, but just because a source is early, that doesn't mean it's reliable. You could have early, just because some source is early, it doesn't mean it's true. If it's something early, it's just early. It has to be early and reliable. It's possible that something is early and false. Now, critics might say Ibn Ishaq is it's the earliest biography of the Prophet Muhammad. It only came, they'll say that it came 120 years or something like that. It only came 120 years, and that's not true. If you, there's many Muslim scholars who have come before Ibn Ishaq. Scholars such as Sal bin Abdul Hatim, Abdullah bin Abbas, Said bin Sa'd al-Buda al-Khazari, Urwa ibn al-Zubair, Sayyid bin al-Musab al-Muskamin, Abu Fawad, Abdullah ibn Ka'b ibn Malik bin Ashari, Aban ibn Uthman ibn Affan, Amr bin Shumer, Sharam al-Shabin, Al-Qasim bin Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr, Wahid bin Muhammad ibn Sa'd al-Zuri, Musab ibn Aqba, and these are people who came before Ibn Ishaq. So it's not true to say that Ibn Ishaq was the earliest writer or biography, because there are several Muslim scholars who came before him, and some of these people were companion or disciples of the Prophet Muhammad, or they were disciples of the Prophet Muhammad. So they were the disciples of the Prophet Muhammad. Or they were disciples of the disciples of the Prophet Muhammad. So those people learned from the actual disciple, the companions of the Prophet Muhammad. So there's like some kind of link there, but a lot of their works no longer survive. Either their works were lost or destroyed. So we don't have, just like we don't have the original New Testament manuscripts, we don't have the original manuscripts of early biographies of the Prophet Muhammad, or early hadith books and stuff like that. So the early sources for Islam were Aban ibn Uthman al-Bakri, Urwa bin Zubair al-Awan, Suhaib bin Sa'd, Wahib bin Munahib, al-Waqidi ibn Sa'd, and Al-Tabari, and Ali bin Muhammad al-Madani. So there were several books before Sahih Bukhari was even born. There were several Muslim biographies and early hadith books and early Muslim histories and stuff like that. So Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah also said that there were in order to verify a Muslim report or Islamic report, there needs to be an isnad. And he said that there were several early Muslim scholars who don't have isnads, and there were Urwa ibn Zubair, Al-Shabi, Al-Zuri, Musa bin Uqba, and Ibn Ishaq. So these four authors are people who did not have isnads to their books and stuff like that. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal was asked about the Saudi reports of Ibn Ishaq if they're considered reliable. He said no, and this is found in Darib al-Daib, volume 9, page 43. So Ahmad ibn Hanbal also said that the solitary reports of Ibn Ishaq were not reliable, and this is found in Darib al-Daib, volume 9, page 43. So there are several chainless stories that exist in Ibn Ishaq's work. We don't know who these missing people are. We don't know if they're Muslims, non-Muslim, hypocrites acting like Muslims, purposely speaking lies, etc. So if we're not sure who the people are in the missing links, how can we imply the principle the principle of embarrassment to these narrators? So the principle of embarrassment doesn't work in the Islamic sources or whatever. So Ibn Hisham, the editor of Ibn Ishaq, also admitted to removing certain stories from Ibn Ishaq's work. And you can find this in Ibn Ishaq's book. Ibn Ishaq's book on page 691, where Ibn Ishaq admits that he took out a lot of, he edited Ibn Ishaq's work, and he took out a lot of weak stories. He took out a lot of weak stories, but he didn't tell what those stories were and stuff like that. So Ibn Ishaq took out a lot of weak stories from Ibn Ishaq's work. So Ibn Ishaq, so you might say, well, what is Ibn Ishaq good for then? If a lot of his stories or a lot of his hadith are weak, and Ibn Ishaq put the hadith in chronological order. So that's a good thing about Ibn Ishaq, is that he put a lot of the hadith in he put the Prophet Muhammad's life in chronological order. So that's a good thing. Now what about Al-Tabari? The history of Al-Tabari, is this reliable? It mostly isn't, and the reason why is because, you don't have to go to outside, again, you don't have to go to outside sources to show that this book isn't reliable. Al-Tabari warns people in the beginning, Al-Tabari Volume 1, page 170 to 171, that, he warns people that his books are filled with authentic and inauthentic stories, and we, the reader, must verify whether those stories are true or not. And and that's not all. Ibn Kathir said that Al-Tabari, in these volumes, Al-Tabari reported the various narrations as they were transmitted and by whom. His discussion is a mixed bag of valuable and worthless, sound and unsound information. This is in keeping with the custom of many hadith scholars, who merely report the information they have on a subject. They make no distinction between what is sound and what is weak. This is found in Ibn Kathir, Al-Bid'ah wa Al-Nihaya, Volume 5, page 208. Even Ibn Kathir says there's authentic and inauthentic narrations found in Al-Tabari's work. So Ibn Ishaq and Al-Tabari were simply putting hadith in chronological order, so they would read like a historical narrative. Therefore, Al-Tabari, like Ibn Ishaq, did a wonderful job in creating one of the first books which placed hadith in chronological order. However, Ibn Ishaq and Al-Tabari only placed them in the right order, and they did not. Both of them did not authenticate them, nor did they claim that. So there's a lot of weak sources, a lot of weak stories in Ibn Ishaq's and Al-Tabari's work. And this also applies to Al-Waqidi and Ibn Sa'd. So the early biographies of the Prophet Muhammad go Ibn Ishaq, Al-Waqidi, Ibn Sa'd, Al-Tabari. And, all four of these sources have mostly weak or false stories of the Prophet Muhammad, and especially Al-Waqidi. Al-Waqidi wrote books called Al-Maghazi, which means war campaigns. And Al-Waqidi was a known liar. Al-Waqidi was a known liar in early Muslim sources. So Al-Waqidi was known as a liar throughout hadith chains and methodologies and stuff like that. And Ibn Sa'd copied Al-Waqidi's work, and Ibn Sa'd was also a weak source. So Al-Waqidi and Ibn Sa'd were both weak sources. They're not authentic stories, or they don't have authentic narrations in them. So another good book to read would be Muhammad bin Tahir al-Barzanji in his book Sahih Tariq al-Tabari wa Da'ifuhu, the authentic narrators from Tariq al-Tabari and its weak ones. And this is like a multi-volume set. This is where he shows that there are authentic narrations and weak narrations in the history of Al-Tabari. So that's all I want to say about Ibn Ishaq and Al-Tabari. They both have authentic and inauthentic stories in them, so don't be fooled when the critics keep quoting Ibn Ishaq and Al-Tabari and stuff like that, because there's a lot of weak stories in there, like the satanic verses, the killing of Osman bin Marwan, the killing of Abu Afaq, etc., etc. Now, the critics might also say the Hadith came 200 years after, or Sahih Bukhari came 200 years after the Prophet Muhammad. That's false. There were many Hadith books before. There were many early Hadith books before Sahih Bukhari, but these books were either lost or destroyed. So we don't have the early Hadith books and stuff like that. So that's all I wanted to say about, why Ibn Ishaq and Al-Tabari aren't reliable. Now you might be saying, if Ibn Ishaq and Al-Tabari aren't reliable, what are reliable biographies of the Prophet Muhammad? And the reliable biographies would be this book, The Prophet of Islam, in light of original sources and analytical study, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And then there's a sealed nectar. This collected authentic stories of the Prophet Muhammad, and his companions and stuff like that. So this would be another authentic biography. And the biographies, most Muslim scholars use would be the prophetic biography, Sirah of Ibn Ishaq. So this would also be a good biography of the Prophet Muhammad. So it's Ibn Ishaq, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4. You can find it, I'm sure, in Islamic bookstores or whatever. It's called Ibn Ishaq. So Ibn Ishaq took out a lot of weak stories in Ibn Ishaq's book. So that's all I want to say. And another good biography would be this book, Sirat al-Nabi and the Orientalist by Muhammad Muhar Ali. So he quotes Ibn Ishaq and stuff like that. So he quotes authentic, or he shows authentic narrations are weak, or why stories are weak in Ibn Ishaq and Al-Tabari and Ibn Sa'd and Al-Waqi. So he does a good job in authenticating weak stories from Ibn Ishaq, Al-Waqi, Ibn Sa'd, Al-Tabari, and showing authentic stories from Ibn Ishaq. And he does it in chronological order and stuff like that. So another good biography to read would be this biography. So that's all I want to say about Ibn Ishaq and Al-Tabari. I hope this video was informational and people can learn from it. So don't be fooled when the critics of Islam, like David Wood or whatever, quote from Ibn Ishaq or Al-Tabari and stuff like that. Most of the time they're quoting weak stories, or stories that have no isnads and are considered weak by Muslim scholars. That's all I wanted to say about that. Thanks a lot.